we drove for we may have driven for maybe a mile or so. And once we arrived a mile or so, all of a sudden we saw some prisoners coming out of the bushes, and they were also asking for a lift. And guys, I kid you not, that moment, that was the first ugliest and the most worst our whole life, and the experience that we actually experienced on that day during that hour. Two prisoners come out of the bushes, and as they come out of the bush, they basically asked for a ride, and the rebels. No, it wasn't the rebel. It was actually the government. There was a soldier in the front of the truck, plus the driver. So the soldier get out of the truck, and as soon as he got out of the truck, he talked to the prisoner, and with the prisoner, I don't know what they exchanged, and then all of a sudden, the man grabs the gun, and then pa, he kills. He shots. He shot the prisoner. I scrammed. I was holding to these bars on the truck, and as soon as he shot him, I froze and I was screaming. And the man looked at us like, it was nothing. And so I couldn't let go of my hands because it's like I froze. So when he shot that person, and then he went off, pa, shot him again, 2 shots. The first shot, when he shot him, the man was like, and then he fell back like a tree. And as soon as he landed down, he took the gun and shot him again. And you could see the man died. I remember like I just saw it like a minute ago. So my hands, I'm stuck like this, and I'm screaming. Dad comes and holds my he holds my mouth, and he pulls us up. And of course, it wasn't just me screaming. Everybody in the trunk was screaming. The children were screaming. And everybody was like, calm down, calm down, calm down. So we sit down and we calm down, but I was out of it. It's like I had gone crazy. Like now we were already afraid and scared that we were like, man, these guys are going to kill us too. They just killed someone out of blue because of a ride. So now apparently later on, when we arrived to like the nearby town towards Gisenyi, but we had not arrived to Gisenyi yet. It was nearby, right after Musanze. There was like the first town you could get there. The gentleman arrives. The driver who was driving the truck there. So he stops there, and then he explained, well, earlier there was this Ibgitso. So Ikitso, it meant the sympathizers or those who were helping the rebels, and we had to kill him. So when he was killing one of them, the other prisoner ran back to the bushes. So he only killed one. So, and we were like, man, these guys are going to kill us also. Because I was like, man, we literally riding with a murderer. It also so happened that person who was killed, we recognized him also. It was another friend of our family who got killed. It was one of the wealthiest businessmen there who got killed. And his name was Bizimana. He was a really wealthy man who was a decent man. He had like a shop that used to manufacture chair in the whole town and probably in the region too. So he was literally executed there in front of us. Why? I don't know, except that they say he was like a sympathizer when we arrived to the first time. And so from there, they were like, you are never to speak of this. So they was basically telling us something we call in Kirana gasopo, do not say anything. You say something, I'll come for you and I'll cage you and I kill you. And I remember we did not say anything about that, except It's like we were speaking code or what was happening or what had happened. All of us, that family and our families, we sort of like, you could see us kid, like your eyes, they just pop out and you don't know what to do with yourself, and you're just like quiet as a mouse. And you waiting. It was terrible to observe as much experience. I know it was horrible. It was really terrible, 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 terrible. So as soon as we arrived, to, I don't know whether it was Commune. Commune is like one of these little local government office. I don't know whether it was Muri. I don't remember. I will have to actually check it on Google, because I tried to retrace our way as we were fleeing town, trying to sort of like understand exactly where we were. But when we arrived, so everybody was like, well, let's figure out a way to keep on moving to Gisenyi, since them they had decided that they wanted to go back to Ruhengeri to see if they could, find other people. So we, from there, they, of course, there was a barrier with some soldiers, and they check us out. They make sure that we were not our PF, but luckily, because again we had shared a ride with that very known person, so they were like, oh, we know this guy, he's one of us. And when we arrived there, so we were like, wow, so how do we get to Gisenyi, especially that nobody really knows us in Gisenyi. And plus, it was getting a little rough. So dad asked that the man, like, hey, where you guys going? He explains we headed to Gisenyi, towards Gisenyi. We're thinking from there we might have a good chance of just going to Goma if we had to, keep moving. And so you say, so that was so how about we share the road together again? So all of us, we shared the route again, and luckily again, just not so far away, we found a pickup truck. They gave us a ride, and they just pushed us like what, maybe 5-10 kilometers further up, and then we found this empty house that didn't have people. I think it was like a tourist house. So, and again, given the stature of the man, when he arrived there, they recognized him. So they were like, "Oh, hello," with all these, with all these prestiges and all of that. So they were like, "Well, we will definitely give you a place to stay while you situate yourself, and then you figure out something." So we stayed there for a night, 2 nights, and then on a third night, we overheard on the radio that the rebel were actually pushed back out, to the volcanoes, and they were calling out people to go back in their homes and all of that. So I remember when they made an announcement, our father and the other men, the father of the other family, they went back to Ruhengeri, trying to basically check to see how things were. And in my head, I was like, hell no, we're not going back there. They might come back again and kill us. So they went and they left us, and the mother and everybody else, to that place. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. I think like on the fifth day, then they called us and they were like, oh, come back home. Everything is okay. We will just have to rebuild life all over again. And when we arrived, so we, they sent us a truck, and they gave us a ride back home. And as soon as we arrived at home, we saw the house for the first time. And I'm telling you, the whole house had been redecorated. Remember, they were shooting at the house through the windows and throughout the house walls on it. You could see like hundreds of bullets that went through the house. Hundreds of bullets. You could just see like the house was redecorated. It was like purposely like these little dots that you could see towards the house, especially the front and the back. The front and the back, they have many bullets that came through, and it looked almost real. Like to see just the way the house was before and the way it was afterwards. And the funny thing, that was like, well, we have to stay here because we don't have another place to live. So us were like, man, they're gonna come out, they will come back and they will kill us again. And this time around, remember we live right next to the military barracks. We saw so many soldiers now that like we've never seen before. So many soldiers that like we've never seen before. And that time around, we could also see so many trenches. Actually, the trenches, there were trenches before, but they were multiplied, they were added. So the trenches, that's where the soldiers will fight. If they were combat to combat, they were like stay in this hole, and then the guns were up and everything. I kid you not, the scenery of what it looked like back in the days, it's stuck in my head. I cannot even shake it. And I remember when they saw us. Of course, they could see that we live right there. Some of those guys were mean. Others were like really nice and comedian. They would just come over sometimes and enthuse us and let us know, hey, don't worry, everything is gonna be okay. Because we just look like we just were super paranoid all the time. And I remember that you could just feel guns every day. Now we started hearing guns afar, not in town, like it had taken place a few days before, but we could hear guns all the time. And we saw so many bullets. Also, we could find live bullets in the cornfields, and you could see soldiers actually doing like inspections. They were going through homes, making sure that there weren't any guns or bodies. And I remember they were like, so we want you children to never play with bullets, to never play with grenades. For the first time, they came and they were like, if you see this thing that looks like this, call us. So they were basically instructing us, they were teaching us what we had to look for so that they can actually come and disarm him. They were looking for mines, like those mines that usually just boom, kaboom, boom, grenades, bullets, and guns. So they show us what it all looked like. So they were like, if you see a bullet that looks like this, call us. If you see a gun, call us. If you see a grenade, call us. And be sure not to pull the ring. There's like a little pin. If you pull it out of that grenade, the thing goes kaboom. So we got all that instructions, and we were like, man, this is so cool. But again, it started feeling again like in the movies, because now you can imagine a kid touching a gun for the first time, touching a bullet for the first time, touching a grenade for the first time. And naturally, because they sort of like liked us, they started showing us more and more. You're seeing a bayonet, a military bayonet. So they just liked us because we're like nice. So they started coming in home, and they will come in the cornfields and will check and run the perimeter check and all of that. So naturally, it was good for us, because then we were like, okay, so at least if something goes wrong, these guys may actually share with us. They might tell us what's happening, and good chance we might be able to leave before the house burns down again, like it had been before. And I remember from there, life changed also. Remember, we had just been scarred with someone getting killed in front of us, literally like 3-4 meters away, someone being killed in front of you. And then next to it, you get introduced to war weapons, the weaponries being used in warfare. So our lives literally took a new turn. And from there, we didn't go to school for like a week or even a week and a half, because most families didn't come back, and they were chopping off bushes, they were clearing off the whole entire area. And we were forced, or we were told that all of us, we had to help the whole entire neighborhood cutting bushes, so that the rebels wouldn't hide in the bushes. So we done that for like a week. cleaning and making sure that there weren't any, any grenades, any improvised devices, and things like that. So it almost felt like a vacation, except that it was just like, a not so nice vacation. But eventually we started getting used to it. And so we lived there again a couple times. Greetings to you too, Gidwa. So we lived there a few more months afterwards, with, and I remember there were a few instances where we also were forced to flee again when the rebels almost came back in town. And then in 1992, another really heavy fight broke. And at that point, we had to flee again. But this time around, when we fled towards Nyakinama. So the idea this time was to flee, going towards Gitarama. So that's another one of it. It was like towards southern Rwanda. We couldn't go towards Kigali, because they were like, there's a chance that you might be intercepted. So we couldn't go towards Gisenyi either, because they said that they were coming towards Gisenyi, that they were literally coming towards Ruhengeri. So we went towards Nyakinama, I remember. So we went by foot again. Surprisingly, we could not get it right, because if you had a ride, oftentimes you couldn't go in anywhere with it. There weren't drivers doing it, and you were a target. So you were a target if you were riding like a car that looked a bit decent. So I remember we were fleeing by foot again, and this time around we fled on the streets along with so many other people. They're telling me that we're running out of time, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut short my testimonies from here. But in the midst of all of this, I've never told this story before. You guys are the first to be hearing of this, in English anyway. I've written a book about it, but I've never narrated the whole story like I'm doing it right now. And I want to encourage all of you young people of the same age or even older. I want to encourage you to find it within yourselves, to write your own history, to speak your own history, to give your testimony of what you have lived, because most of the history that we have today has completely excluded you out of it, excluded your ordeals, what you have gone through, all of that. So it's important that we rewrite our history as accurate as you can recall, and make sure that this part of our history never dies. So this is the spirit by which we share with you or the testimonies in our history. We also want to encourage, I want to encourage all of you guys to also write books. Just make sure that you do not depart this earth with that information. It's going to be used down the line many years ahead of us. But it is also going to help some of the families that have completely been killed to have some sort of reference point. Being able to say, hey, I knew someone here, I knew somebody there. So I want to promise you guys that we are going to forever tell our story until the last person alive can share their testimony, write their own history. We want to make sure that we recollect all of our history together, all these testimonies together, especially those of you who have gone through the same ordeals, so we can testify. Because some of the deaths that have taken place from 1990 to 1994 were never reported. These are the deaths literally perpetrated by the RPF. The RPF, it's the Rwandan Patriotic Front, the rebels, who are the government today. But because not one single international agency has ever investigated them, up to this day, those deaths have never been, they were never judged. They were never taken to court. They were never, many families have never got justice. They've never received justice. And we want to make sure that at some point in life, we can actually seek out justice to each and every one of the families that have lost their loved ones from October 1st up until today. And with that in mind, I also want to thank HMG Network and affiliates for making this broadcast a reality, because we know it is not every station that takes the time to share our stories. And we want to say thank you so much for making that happen, and also wanting to give the opportunity to all of you out there to take it upon yourself to just be there, say, provide information, especially give the testimonies, those dark testimonies that nobody knows, because it is going to save so many lives. It is going to be utilized in courts for justices. All right. So with that, again, I am so grateful. Please leave us some feedbacks on our website, afridominion.com, or www.afridominion.com, or leave us some feedbacks using our email, info@afridominion.com. And let's keep on telling our stories. Let's keep on doing our testimonies. Until next time, we'll see you Wednesday again during our testimony. If you have a testimony that you want to give out, by all means, do so. Otherwise, tomorrow we get to meet again, and Friday. And we are so grateful for this opportunity to hang out with you guys, to be with you guys. And we are super grateful. And with that in mind, I am Freeman Singirankabo. May God be with you. You guys have a beautiful day, and goodbye for now.